Carson Castle, he's into the end zone. Touchdown, App State, keeping their foot on the gas pedal. It's 43-10.
And it's going to be a handoff to Cam Peoples, and he's going to be in the end zone for a touchdown. And App State has retaken the lead here at Kimbrough Stadium.
Bryce in the shotgun, Noel behind him, 4 wideouts to Rapp. Drops back to Thoreau, pressure coming, gets it off quick, looking for Malik Williams, downfield, he's got him! Malik Williams, touchdown! 48 yards!
You're listening to Sports Wrap on 90.5 WASU-FM.
That's right, you heard it first there. This is Sports Wrap. Happy Thursday, everyone. It's, as always, a pleasure to be with you on this gloomy Thursday evening, I guess I should say. It was absolutely beautiful in the high country yesterday, and then today it's all yucky and nasty. But good news is, though, it hadn't been too terribly cold. It was about 52 degrees today, so not terrible. But anyways, it's been all fun and games today, but now it's time to get down to the real fun stuff. Talking some sports on the radio. So tonight we're actually kind of short a man, so we've got 3 tonight. So
that's all we need.
Yeah,
more airtime.
It's all we need. Yeah.
So if you don't recognize the voices by now, I'm Jason. To my left is Cooper Govro. To his left is Stephen Biddix. And just for y'all who listen and don't necessarily watch on Facebook Live, it's like everybody has their own designated seat, you know. So, like, Steven likes to sit at the round part of the table so he can see everybody. Obviously, I have to sit in the host chair, and then Coop likes to sit beside the host. So, everybody's got their own kind of chair they like to sit in, but it's all good. So, got a lot of great stuff tonight. We're going to get into some NFL free agency stuff. Going to look into the second half of the NBA, and then got a fun little debate segment that I want to maybe touch on if we can. But before we get started, I like to start out with a question, just kind of like an icebreaker type question, I guess. So my question for this week is, if you could eat with anyone living or dead, if you could have one meal with anybody living or dead, who would you choose?
So my first question is, do I get to choose where we eat? Or does my person get to choose?
No, you can choose.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going with the easy bank option. One of my favorite players of all time. He's just outstanding, man. When Walter Payton Man of the Year, it's J.J. Watt. I mean, I've been a fan of him since he was a Texan, and now he's a Cardinal. Just the dude is like a walking inspiration. It's definitely. It's more than just like eating with a football player. It's like getting motivational advice and life advice. It just seems like a really cool dude. He used to deliver pizzas while he played football at Central Michigan. Just like a really cool, down-to-earth guy who has made hundreds of millions, but just seems like one of us.
Yeah, so my first one I'm going to go with, because I have 2. Serious one, I'd go Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd is the guy I look up to in this field.
Colin Cowherd is terrible.
I watch him every day
he's
from 12
terrible,
to 3. No, he's
Jim Rome is 5,000 times better than Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd's a number 1.
Wait, is this the debate segment?
Sports broadcast rankings for the last 3 or 4 years.
Colin Cowherd's takes are horrible.
He's an opinionist, dude. Imagine getting paid $6 million a year to go on a mic and say whatever you want to do.
I mean, yeah, that's true. For 4 hours. I mean, his
3
show's
hours, yeah.
okay.
Who's his host lady?
Joy Taylor.
Yeah, Joy Taylor.
Yeah.
But Jim Rome's the same way.
Yeah, I love Cowherd, though. And then my second one is Bob Nutting. Bob Nutting's the Pittsburgh Pirates owner, so I just like to give him an earful for about 3 to 4 hours, just about how much of a cheapskate he is. And how he's probably one of the bottom 3 worst owners in all of professional sports. So that would be my second one.
Whoa.
Dang.
Happy Thursday, everybody.
So this would be a intense meal.
It wouldn't really
You're
be a
not eating.
conversation. It would be a one-way conversation, pretty much. Yeah.
I'd say, dude.
You don't have any time to eat. I mean, that's just like yelling at him.
seriously. My goodness. Just cut the man's jugular or something. I mean, don't make him suffer like that. No, mine would. I think everybody would probably have to say their favorite athlete. I got a lot of favorite athletes: LaDainian Tomlinson, Larry Bird, Mickey Mantle, Cam Newton. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The Seeger brothers. So I have a lot of them. If I had to pick one, I guess I'll go an athlete and then a non-athlete. I would have to say probably either Cam Newton or LaDainian Tomlinson, or I don't know, one of those two probably. Just because I grew up and that was two of my favorite all-time players in any professional sport. And then I would probably have to keep it sentimental and say Jesus probably would be the next one that I would say. But yeah, I would just have to probably thank LaDainian Tomlinson for making some bomb tennis shoes whenever we're 4 and 5 years old. So I wore those tennis shoes everywhere I went. But no, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting you, Steve, to kind of take that approach to it. I guess. Yeah, seriously, hostile.
Seriously, this was the debate segment. I think
you're gonna have the owner. You're gonna have to go out to eat with the owner and then make him pay for it, right?
Yeah. I don't even know if I'll order anything. I'm just going to be cold by the time I'm done talking.
Yeah.
It's like a one-way street. He's not going to be able to get any words in edgewise.
Yeah, seriously, my goodness. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started because we've already wasted almost 10 minutes. So as I said, we're going to get into some NFL to start the show off. There's a lot of big-name free agents that are on the market this offseason. I think one of the biggest names that's really swirled around, even before the season ended, the NFL season officially ended, was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers made a really long, sappy post about the Packers, went on the Pat McAfee show the other day and everything. And there's a lot of speculation on if he'll leave Green Bay. He did say that he did not want to join a team that was going to be rebuilding. If he was going to join a team, he wanted to be a contender. Then there's also speculation that he'll end up retiring and just host Jeopardy and host a bunch of game shows, or at least try to win a ring off the field, since he can't seem to win one on it. But he can't even win one off of it either.
Low blow.
Yeah. Okay.
It was kind of low. I'm sorry. It was kind of a low blow. All right. So my question is, do y'all think he'll hang him up, or do you think he'll kind of start a new chapter within his career and sign with another team?
Look, I actually think Aaron Rodgers could take a very similar path to a guy that we call the greatest quarterback of all time. I think that Aaron Rodgers, like a guy in Tom Brady who spent his entire career with the team that drafted him, could now potentially go somewhere and play on a championship contending team and be that last piece, kind of like Matt Stafford did this year in L.A. on a team that was kind of built around winning a Super Bowl. I think, the jury's still out. Nothing, Brian Gutekunst came out and said actually he has never openly said he will trade Aaron Rodgers. So you've got that. And also they just recently, restructured his contract, giving him, they created $3 million in cap space. They gave him a signing bonus. So that money's up front. That means they can void his contract in 2 years. Like, there's 2 years where they can void his contract. So it's there. They're leaving the door open. I don't think he retires. I mean, the guy threw for 4,200 yards this year, 37 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And he played 16 games. He didn't play all the games. He missed one. But I think
he's not slowing down.
No, absolutely
all,
not. And all of this is to say that Aaron Rodgers, as much as Brian Gutekunst wants to say whatever he wants to say that he doesn't want to trade him, he holds all the cards here, because teams have already came out and started offering the house for him. They're throwing the kitchen sink to get. Honestly, as a Texans fan, I would love nothing more than to see him in a town like ours, but because we would probably throw the entire organization just to get him.
Capital, really.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, anybody and everybody would be willing to get him on their team. I mean, an MVP, arguably 2-time, so the guy is still a veteran, and like I said, I think he can pull a Tom Brady move, go to a place, not Tampa exactly, but go to a place like Tampa, restart, win a Super Bowl in his first year, maybe. I'm not calling it, but if it happens, I called it here. No, but I just don't know. I definitely don't think he hangs it up, but right now it's so in the air. His decision is still looming, so none of us really know.
Steve, before you say something, I wanted to say, I think that if that happens, you'll see a lot of free agents and a lot of big-name guys that want to go play with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, then you got to think about Devontae Adams.
I was going to say, that's what I was going to get to, even Devontae Adams. So go ahead, Steve.
I don't even think you have to look to Tom Brady. You look at the same exact organization about 20 years ago when Brett Favre held them hostage, just like Aaron Rodgers is right now. Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers get this Green Bay quarterback syndrome because they're the biggest things in Green Bay. They always want more because there's just not much to do in Green Bay. Football is all they have there. There's no other professional sports teams until you get to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We've got the Bucks and the Brewers. But he did the same thing. Ended up going to the Vikings after that. Went to the Jets for a little bit of a stint after that. But the thing back then was the Packers knew they had Aaron Rodgers, who was an absolute stud. Jordan Love, we don't know if he can play. I think you would have been hearing rumblings now after year 2 if he could play or not.
Oh, yeah.
And we are not hearing that. I think inevitably Aaron's going to end back in Green Bay.
That's potential.
Because Devontae Adams is an easy franchise tag for Green Bay. They can do that. David Bakhtiari, one of his best friends, only played 1 game this past year coming off of a torn ACL. Will be back fully healthy. I mean, he loves David Bakhtiari. Bakhtiari bought him that golf cart
That's
before
true,
the
he
season
did.
even started.
With the fuzzy steering wheel.
Yep. And then if it makes him happy, I'm sure they'll bring Randall Cobb back. And they already brought back his old quarterback coach from 2016, who he said was a big part to his development. And if he was to request a trade, though, I just don't know where he would end up because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is scared of anybody per se. But why would you want to go to the AFC with a Josh Allen, Bill Belichick, you have Joe Burrow over there, you have Justin Herbert, you have Patrick Mahomes, and the list just goes on and on. You have a feisty Tennessee team every year. You have the Raiders who have made the playoffs, giving people a hard time. So, and the Packers, I don't think will trade him within the NFC because the last thing you want to do is get knocked out. Because if you just run through a few teams real quick, obviously not in the division. The Falcons, Panthers, Saints, maybe the Bucks would be the only thing, but the other 3 are out. And then he's not going to the Cardinals, he's not going to the Rams, he's not going to the Hawks unless it's a swap for Russ and Aaron, which isn't going to happen. And I doubt the Niners will happen because you're not going to bench the 3rd overall pick multiple years in a row. You got to see what you got. So all I really see him being able to go is in the AFC, but from a personal level, I would love him to go to Pittsburgh. But it just doesn't make sense that he would want to go to the AFC and the Packers don't want to trade him to the NFC. So I don't think he retires. I think he'll end up back in Green Bay. But after doing it, the Panchakarma cleanse, however you pronounce, where he was inducing stuff out of both sides for about 14 days with this cleansing stuff, who knows what he's going to come up with out of that.
I thought he was a free agent.
No,
actually, he's still
under
2 years,
contract.
Oh, is he? I could have swore they signed him for a year and then said
they changed it to where he can opt out after this coming season.
Yeah,
okay. So
they made his contract now a signing bonus. They created $3 million in cap by doing that, so they can void it. They can now void the contract after this year.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. This is hard for me just because, like I said before Steve went, I think wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, there's going to want to be other guys that will go and play with him. And you got to think that wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, Devontae Adams will probably follow with him, more than likely, and so you never know,
Because Juju is, it's looming. He's looming.
Juju's already a Cowboy, essentially, it seems like.
So he's looming. That creates space.
The Steelers are...
We don't need Juju anyway. I can really just deal without his TikTok. He does not embody the blue-collar mentality of Pittsburgh in the slightest.
I mean,
he is a physical player when he's out there, don't get me wrong, but all the TikTok crap and all the attention he brings, the negative attention, and I need to get Chase Claypool away from him as quick as possible so Claypool doesn't turn into that either.
He's already got a YouTube channel. He posts vlogs every day.
But yeah, part of me wants to say he wants to just hang it up and just say I'm done and go to hosting game shows like he likes to do. But the other part of me is like, this guy's not declining at all. I mean, Cooper read off his numbers. I mean, 30-something touchdown passes he threw this year and only 4 interceptions. I mean, that's great stuff. I mean, he was MVP candidate all year long and ended up winning it. And I mean, there's no need for him to have to throw it away unless he just fell out of love with the game of football. I mean, the man's single. As far as I know, he doesn't have any kids. I mean, nope. He's
married to the game.
Yeah, married to the game is exactly right.
Well, and something we're going to get into here pretty soon as well is the Packers said that they're going to spend money this year on free agents. Yeah. The Packers never do that, and there's some wide receivers I'll have coming up here in a bit, but they want to make Aaron Rodgers happy. There's some wide receivers on the free agent market they can go and get, and they need to do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, I think that the Packers organization has realized, okay, maybe Aaron Rodgers and his opinion is a lot more valuable than what we thought it would be. to be the best, you got to beat the best, is what I'm going to say. And in order to be the best, you've got to play in the best conference in football, which is the AFC. You know, you listed guys throughout the whole AFC that were great quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers is just as good, if not better, than a lot of those guys on that list. And so I think just by him playing in the other conference, you don't get to necessarily see that. But this one is good. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. I love watching him play. I think he's a great quarterback. So I would hate to see him retire, especially when the guy's still got it. But you know, I'm not him, so I don't control his mind. I don't control the decisions that he chooses to make. You know, so I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would love to see him stay and stick around, but in the end, he's got to do what makes him happy. So that's what it kind of comes down to. So moving on kind of to other, I guess I lied to you all. I'm sorry. I thought Aaron Rodgers was a free agent. I was completely wrong. But moving on to other guys who are going to be kind of targets this offseason. Russell Wilson has already said that he'd like to explore his options. Of course, you got Aaron Rodgers. You even got Chris Godwin. I mean, just to name a couple. I mean, kind of what one free agent are you trying to keep close tabs with and close eyes on?
You know, I've got a few just that I'll kind of list off here because I kind of went defense here. But before I go on the defense side, you've got a situation right now in Minnesota that is very volatile. They are shopping Kirk Cousins, the Vikings are, and the Panthers recently, I don't know if anybody's seen, they have made calls on Kirk. And I'm not saying
the
anything.
Panthers are going to try another quarterback?
No, I'm not saying anything will materialize. I'm not saying anything will materialize, but it has been made known that Minnesota could move him. He is not cemented in Minnesota Vikings, lore.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting move because then, okay, Minnesota, do you just blow it all up? What does Minnesota do after that? And then on the other side, that could help Carolina if that ends up going through, or it could hurt them. I don't know. But another one is I'm really interested in. So Chandler Jones, right? A guy who has been considered in the talks for the past 3 years, really, for DPOY, for Defensive Player of the Year. He is a great edge rusher from Arizona. And that is actually, Arizona has a really packed defensive backfield or defensive front seven. So really, you got to think, this is coming to another segment we'll get to later. Does he take a bigger bag and go somewhere else? And then, arguably, one of the best corners in the AFC, J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson, shutdown guy. He's really recently come on for New England. Another guy who, and Mike Williams is my last one. Mike Williams is he's criminally underrated because Keenan Allen takes all the limelight in LA for the Chargers, but the guy has serious wide receiver one abilities. But
yeah, looking at Mike Williams, he was hurt like his first couple seasons. That was his only thing. This year he stayed healthy pretty much the whole year, which is big. So that's going to take me to my first guy, Chris Godwin. If I'm him and Blaine Gabbert is the starting quarterback for what it's looking like, or they don't get a hot shot down there, I'm out. I can go to the Los Angeles Chargers, who are third in a salary room, and I can go play with Justin Herbert, with Keenan Thompson on the other side, leaving me single coverage pretty much every single route. And I would love to go to play to LA if I was Chris Godwin. And also, if you're Chris Godwin, I mean, look at the Packers. Or I guess it kind of be the other way around. We want to see the Packers go out and get people look at Chris Godwin because he is a free agent, and that's something Aaron always gets in trouble with. And the playoffs, it's Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, or bust. He didn't trust Allen Lazard in the playoffs, and Randall Cobb's just not young enough anymore. And then my next wide receiver is Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, I think, is very underrated, which the Bears do need to re-sign him because otherwise you're just throwing Justin Fields to the Wolves even more than you already are. But I think another team that could be looking at him too are the Indianapolis Colts, because you have Michael Pittman Jr., who is an ascending guy, kind of a bigger guy though, but they don't have that kind of quick slot guy anymore with T.Y. Hilton getting older. And then going over to the defensive side of the ball, you have Tyrann Mathieu, that is a free agent, a ball hawk guy, big IQ guy, and I think because it seems like him and the Chiefs may be parting ways, salary cap wise. The Chiefs kind of have to work some things. This is all going to catch up to them eventually, having to pay this offense over and over and over. I'm looking at the Ravens with Tyrann Mathieu. They had one of the worst secondaries, bottom 5 in the league last year, and they just got absolutely roasted on the back end every single time. And getting a dominant guy out there like Tyrann Mathieu to really run that defense would be terrifying against the disappointing Ravens defense last season that should bounce back this coming year. And the last thing I'm looking at that's not really a free agent, but a guy that's going to get traded is Jimmy G. I would love to see Jimmy G in a
He's
Pittsburgh
going to get
uniform.
traded. Are we going on the record?
I think he's going to. I feel pretty confident because in Pittsburgh, you want to get back, sign some offensive linemen, establish the run, trade that maybe a second and third round pick, get Jimmy G. He's not necessarily going to go and win you a bunch of games, but you don't need him to do that. You have a stud defense. You have great weapons around him, and I just think he would be a great fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Jimmy G's been a name that's been tossed up for a while now, especially now that we're in the off season. But the guy just led the 49ers to NFC Championship.
Did he though? Was it Jimmy G or was it their defense and Deebo Samuel?
Do you know he's the quarterback with the most Super Bowl wins in the NFL right now? After
How many
Brady
of those
retired?
were bench rings?
I know one of them was two. Yeah, both of them were. But he's got the most in the NFL, which is funny.
No, Jimmy G's a great quarterback. I think he's I wouldn't say he's a great quarterback, but I mean he's a solid quarterback.
He's like the best of the average.
Yeah,
if you
okay, I'll give you that.
Way.
I'll give
He's
you
like,
that. But I would
he's the
argue that
top
Kirk
dog,
Cousins
like,
is better
star.
than him.
Yeah,
No.
there's like
I would argue that
there's
yes.
like tier one quarterbacks, which is your Josh Allen's, your Patrick Mahomes, your Aaron Rodgers. If you want to throw him in there, you could. There's more than just that too. But I would probably say Jimmy G's probably tier 2 level type quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. So I'm not going to answer this one because I want to ask y'all another question. If you're an owner, out of all the guys that y'all listed, if you're an owner of an organization and you need positions filled for every guy that you just mentioned, what free agent would you hone in on the most? Out of the ones that y'all listed, would you say Mike Williams? Would you say Chandler Jones? Steven, would you say Tyrann Mathieu? Would you say Chris Godwin?
If I'm an owner, because I mentioned a quarterback, and I need a quarterback, the quarterback's going to be the number one position I'm going after.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, well, listen, if I need offense, I'm not going to get Chandler Jones. Right now, if I'm just playing a role here. If I'm the Texans GM,
I was about to say, you guys need every position, so what would you pick?
No. Our defense actually was actually middle of the pack this year. We had a pretty good defense. We had like a top 5 passing defense. But anyways, I would look at a wide receiver. But if I'm, like you said, Baltimore, I'm going to try to shore up that secondary and maybe get J.C. Jackson or Tyrann Mathieu. But they have DeShazer Everett, and he's young, and DeShazer Everett has shown flashes. That's a whole nother conversation. But I think really, Jason, it just depends on what organization I am and what I need most, and I'll probably pick my top options off of that.
So let's just say you need offense and defense help. Who would you choose?
Mike Williams at the receiver, and probably.
Would you take Tyrann Mathieu or would you take Chandler Jones?
Probably Chandler Jones. The guy is a bona fide in the conversation for Defensive Player every year. Bona fide.
So, Steve, you would stay with the quarterback probably?
Yeah, if I need a quarterback, but if I didn't need one, technically, Devontae Adams is a free agent.
Technically, but they're going to tag him.
But after that, I would take Chris Godwin on the offensive side.
I would be surprised if they tag him. I think they're going to wait for Aaron Rodgers before they decide what to do with Devontae Adams.
But they want to give any quarterback that's in there after him, they want to give him to Devontae Adams if they can tag him. But anyways.
That is true. That is very true. Okay, interesting. I did see, though, that it's looking like you see these mock drafts all the time nowadays, but I did see where it's looking like I've seen one mock draft where even Kenny Pickett stays in Pittsburgh and he doesn't get drafted till the Steelers pick. I've seen where Sam Howell doesn't get drafted till the Steelers pick. So, they're saying like Malik Willis is going to be the first quarterback off the board.
Oh, from Liberty?
Yeah, they're saying he's going to be the first quarterback off the board. So,
if he was taller, it'd be a lot more confident. But he's 6 foot, which is not insane for an NFL quarterback.
Kyler Murray's not very tall.
But Kyler Murray gets hurt for 4 to 5 games every year.
Neither is Russell Wilson.
But also, anyways.
Russell Wilson.
But he also played at Liberty, though. He didn't play at Oklahoma like Kyler Murray played at Oklahoma.
That is true. I guess
Russell Wilson played in the ACC and the Big Ten.
Wisconsin, yeah.
That is true. I guess. But that doesn't have anything to do though with his size.
No, but it's just kind of a whole package.
They take more of a beating, I guess, in a way, in those big man conferences. But I don't know if it had anything to do with size, person. You can run Malik Willis out of the gun if you wanted to.
What
the
team wants to
Steelers
run
did that with Big Ben, even this past year.
But you have to see, is he going to have that NFL accuracy, be able to throw the NFL ball into those tight windows, lead receivers? Is he going to struggle like that, like Lamar Jackson?
Because I was going to say, sure, because he can probably run with the best of them, but that's not his main priority. Unless
if you look at the best quarterbacks in the NFL, they all have great arms and can also run. They're not necessarily run first, but then can also throw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Malik Willis can run. I'm not favoring Malik Willis at all. I'm just saying.
I don't think any of them are going to be all that great necessarily. That's what's so hard about this year.
A lot of GMs have just came out and flat out said there is not a quarterback right now that is a starting quarterback in the NBA or in the NFL this year.
None of these guys are first-round grades if they're coming out in the last couple years worth of quarterback drafts.
It's going to be
the only one who has that I've seen who has the true proven NFL arm, and it's not even proven, is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Just because the guy can launch it. But anyways.
Yeah, no. Kenny Pickett was one of the best quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett and Sam Howell were the best quarterbacks in the ACC
he was at
this
Pitt for like
year.
6 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kenny Pickett was there forever.
But he has small hands, so be worried. Even though Joe Burrow's hands are smaller than his.
I'm so glad that Kenny Pickett is out of there. But now they got Pitt got was it Keaton Slovis, I think, from USC now. And
Yep.
So
I
they're
got to think of Matt Corral, but
they're not going anywhere with quarterback. Oh, I forgot about Matt Corral. He's in the draft too. So I forgot about Matt Corral. Okay. So next question, going to kind of move on. This one is more of just a player specific. The Indianapolis Colts a while back had announced that when eligible to, they were going to end up looking to trade Carson Wentz. You know, what do y'all kind of make of that decision, especially since the Colts were in the playoff hunt for a long time last year? I mean, do you think they're trying to do that to try to get draft picks, maybe get a higher draft pick? I mean, what do you make of that decision?
I mean, look, I'm a little biased here. I can't stand anything the Colts do or anything. I thought that the Frank Reich Carson Wentz thing would just match up perfectly and they wouldn't go 9-8. I was wrong. He had, by most standards, he had an okay year. I would consider it mediocre because they have arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. They have a great defense. I'm not going to say amazing, but they have a great defense, and
they had the best running back.
They have the best. Yep, they had the best running back in the NFL this year. Behind it, they could have won more games. And I'm not saying. I feel like Carson Wentz just played the role. Like, he didn't go above and beyond and be better than anybody they've had in the past. Carson Wentz, to me. Carson Wentz is not even a Ryan Tannehill level quarterback, in my opinion. He's just not. Carson Wentz has not shown anything since he's been in Indianapolis. I know it's only been 1 year, so we have a smaller sample size, but he hasn't shown anything to make me think, oh man, the Colts need to keep him. I would like it because that's an easier matchup for my team twice a year. But I think he's like maybe. I don't think they're going to try to keep him. You mentioned on here, do they potentially draft a quarterback? I don't know about that. But yeah, they were in the hunt for a playoff all year.
I don't even know who their backup quarterback is.
Jacob Eason.
Okay, is it Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger? That's right. Yeah, Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger.
All right, so I'm going to play a little game called Blind Resume with you guys. All right, quarterback number 1. 67% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Quarterback number 2, 62.4% completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. I
already know who that is.
Wentz is the latter. Tannehill is the first one. Wentz pretty much better overall stats than Ryan Tannehill. They're comparing him to Kyler Murray. Only a 62.4 versus 69% completion percentage. Wentz had more touchdowns, 27 to 24, and less interceptions. Kyler 10 interceptions to Carson Wentz's 7. So if you're the Colts, I think you've got to give Carson Wentz another year. It was his first year in the offense. He's coming off of, because mentally he wasn't stable coming out of Philadelphia. And the only reason I would be worried if I was Indianapolis is there were rumors that he was calling out of run plays with Jonathan Taylor. And if he was doing that, then that's an issue. You've got to knock that out because Carson Wentz has not shown that he's a top 8 quarterback to be able to be calling out of running plays to the number 1 running back in the NFL. But Jim Irsay, as the owner of the Colts, is also getting very impatient. He's used to having Peyton Manning for 18 years, being at the top of the AFC every single year, and then going off an absolutely perfect transition into Andrew Luck. And he's not used to struggling like this, and he's impatient. But then also, who are you going to go out and get if it's not Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson that's going to be better than Carson Wentz? It's going to be more serviceable. Or are you just going to be like Washington or Carolina and just kind of fluctuate through these just quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, Taylor Heineke, Fitzpatrick, and go out and get somebody at that level? Because I don't know who you're really going to go out and get that's going to be better than Carson Wentz, or at least the potential to take your team better than what Carson Wentz can do next year.
I mean, hey, you got Minnesota. You could try to get Kirk, and but my thing is, okay, sure, he had a few more touchdowns, but 20 of those were probably to Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor's one of the better pass-catching running backs in the NFL. But all that aside, the point, being unfortunate, I had to watch at least 2 of the Colts games this year, and then other games. I don't see, Carson Wentz doing more than anybody else, more than Ryan Tannehill to win games. I don't see, late game, they have just, or any point in the game, they've killed people with their run game behind the best offensive line in the NFL and the best running back in the NFL. He is support. He is not going out and winning games by himself. He has a fantastic supporting cast. His defense does work. His defense is proven to be a top 15 defense in the NFL. He's not like something to gawk at. He's like, oh my gosh, it's Carson Wentz. Like, no, the guy is not that special. You can go out and get someone like him. It's just Carson Wentz made the best of a good situation. He had, like I said, the best offensive line and the best running back this year in the NFL. So if he had went out there and done it with a Dontrell Hilliard, you guys don't even know who that is, but if he had went out there and done that with a running back in Dontrell Hilliard, the third-string running back, then maybe I'm like, oh, okay, he threw 27 touchdowns, just like he had no help. But, I mean, anyways.
But if you're the Colts, this is the last year he has on his contract.
Yeah, because it's second year.
Exactly. So going into next year then, you have Aaron Rodgers who can be wide open. You have Russell Wilson who only has 1 year left on his deal, and that's much more likely for Seattle to trade him because you don't want to keep him that 1 more year and then him walk for nothing. Kyler Murray's technically a free agent after next year still. Yep. There's a lot of big-name quarterbacks that are free agents next year. So I think you kind of just ride out Carson Wentz 1 more year before you just try and just trade him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have to agree with Steve on this one. I mean, my goodness, the guy had the Colts, in playoff contention basically all year. A lot of that, though, you got to give credit to his offensive line and to Jonathan Taylor. I will agree with what Coop said. Carson Wentz is not a top 8 quarterback in the NFL at all by any means.
Not even top 10.
I mean, but if you're the Colts, you got to look at the market and say, okay, what quarterbacks do we have a shot at signing other than keeping Carson Wentz? I mean, think about next year coming into the draft for next year. You've got Spencer Rattler, I guess, if you wanted to, out of South Carolina, which is dog water basically. You've got DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson, who's not much better than he is. I mean, you've got
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, yeah. I mean, Bryce Young probably will end up being the number 1 overall pick next year, probably. But you've got to say, okay, do we try to ride this out with Carson Wentz another year, see how it goes, and then go from there? I personally, if I'm Jim Irsay, I wouldn't trade him just because I think that right now, the quarterback market is not as great as what it could be, or I'm sorry, it's not as great this season as what it could be in the future, as what it could be next year, and all that other stuff. I mean, I say let Carson Wentz run it one more time. What in that division? You've got the Texans, you've got the Colts, the Jags, and the Titans.
Yep.
So I mean, that's a winnable division right there, I guess, for Carson Wentz. Not necessarily with the Titans.
It's definitely winnable.
But it's definitely winnable, and Carson Wentz can win that division,
They need to be able to stop Derrick Henry, but yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely.
They also can't let up 26 points to Jacksonville in the last game of the season.
No, I agree 100%. But, it's a winnable division. Carson Wentz can win that division. Steve, you said earlier, are they going to pull a Carolina or a Washington? Washington can take a mediocre quarterback and put them in their system and compete in the NFC least. Well, I mean, really, when you think about it, and a mediocre quarterback with a great offensive line makes the quarterback look fantastic. And so.
Well, I think Jimmy G would work in Indy awesome as well.
Oh yeah,
very similar to Pittsburgh. Want to dominate with the run game, good offensive line.
Absolutely, I agree. So, That's hard for me. It really is. If I'm the Colts owner, I would not personally trade Carson Wentz. I say just let him play out his contract. But I'm not Jim Irsay, no matter how bad I want to be. So we're gonna take a quick break before we change sports and move into the NBA stuff. Pretty good discussion this first 30 minutes of the show. We still got a lot to cover in 25 minutes, but we'll see if it happens or not. I don't know. Us three, when we talk about sports, it takes a while to get through everything.
On the other side of this, Coop and Steve's betting corner.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Sports Wrap, presented by Eggers, and Eggers, right here on 90.5 WASU FM.
Life is a journey. We're told that there are mountains and valleys before us. A mountaineer trudges through. Where others see an obstacle, a mountaineer sees an opportunity. A mountaineer climbs tomorrow's mountains today. So what is a mountaineer? A mountaineer is you.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Blanks from University of Communications here in the Beaver College of Health Sciences. It's the 10-year anniversary of the Beaver.
Let's go!
To a place where you can grow.
A place to be heard.
And take a closer look.
A place where you can crush it.
And push yourself.
A place to find your voice.
This place rocks. And rolls. A place where you can get out.
A place you'll never forget.
So where is this place? Let me show you.
Wrap. We brought it back in on an old school Drake song that was Over, just in case you weren't sure. That's actually one of Drake's very, very first albums, I would have to say. We during the break had the debate over tonight's wing night over at Ale House. So during the break, we kind of debated on what the better wings were at Ale House. I think they're easily Cajun dry rub, and Steve's over here saying the honey habanero were good. So
might have to try that though, honestly.
So, yeah.
Slap.
So yeah,
Underrated.
it's pretty good. But no, that commercial I just played, just in case y'all don't know about the mask and stuff. The Boontown Council has agreed to lift the mask mandate in Watauga County. When is it?
March 7th.
March 7th. So that's the first day of spring break for us. So that has been lifted. That's probably the biggest news that's happened in Watauga County today. So if you haven't heard of it, now you have. So we just got done touching on some NFL free agency stuff. We're gonna move over to the hardwood. So the second half of the NBA season is starting soon. I'm actually starting tonight, I believe. Not every team's playing, but a couple of them are playing. So, what are you kind of looking for as we begin this second half, and then what teams are y'all going to keep your eyes on this second half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly one team right now that I've been watching all season just because they haven't been good in the past few years. It's the Grizzlies. I got a few teams. I got the Grizzlies and the Heat and the Suns. Those are three teams that I'm really looking out for because we know what the Warriors are going to do. You can say the Warriors, but we know what they're going to do this year. They have their three-headed monster back, and they added pieces around it like Andrew Wiggins, but. Anyways, the Grizzlies. I mean, Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. is back healthy. Steven Adams is going crazy. Desmond Bane was in the Rising Stars game this past weekend. The guy can flat out play. He can play. They've got a plethora of players. That DeAnthony Melton, he's still playing for them.
They've won 40-something games.
They're 41-19. Okay. They're third in the Western Conference, behind the Suns and the Warriors. The Suns, obviously, that kind of goes without saying. They played in the championship last year. Best record in the NBA, 48-10. They're on a 7-game win streak right now. So their last 10, they went 9-1. They're red hot. I think the Suns, with DeAndre Ayton is still playing as a top 10 center. Obviously, Chris Paul, the veteran, and then you've got guys coming off the bench. I also think that not only Chris Paul but Devin Booker. His play this year has been very consistent. And in recent years, Devin Booker has been kind of very spotty. He could put up 72 points and they still lose. And then he could go for maybe 15 points. But his play has gotten a lot more consistent. And on the other side, Jimmy Butler's team, the Heat, they got Kyle Lowry now. Duncan Robinson is kind of, he's kind of playing worth the money. That's arguable, and then you've got Tyler Hero, you've got Bam, you've got Max Strus. I don't know if any of you have heard of him, but he's actually a really good supplemental role player for them. They've brought in a lot of just role players that make that second rotation so good for them, and also the Bulls as well. I'll just briefly mention them. The Bulls, a bona fide MVP candidate in DeMar DeRozan this year. The guy can't miss from mid-range. I mean, literally, I think he's hitting 19 of 20 basically from mid-range almost. He's insane. They're second in the East. Those teams will definitely be in contention for a championship this year.
Yes, definitely. So starting off out west, you mentioned the Warriors. Excited to watch the Warriors. And Draymond hasn't been playing for the last little bit, and he's still coming back. And while Steph did cool off, kind of getting close to the All-Star break, we just saw him drop 16-3. It was a record in the All-Star break. Yeah. So looks like he might be back on track now. But then also in the West, you have the Suns that are up top. The Grizzlies are super exciting to watch. But I'm on the Denver Nuggets right now. You have Nikola Jokic, 26 points, 13.8, basically 14 boards, and 7.9, basically 8 assists. So 26, 14, and 8. 57% from the field. And Jamal Murray's coming back.
I was going to say Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. both.
Yeah, and Michael Porter Jr. is coming back as well. And we saw what Jamal Murray did in the bubble. And he can get hot, and he can get hot fast. And him and Jokic run that beautiful pick-and-roll offense. That is great to watch.
Got Gordon, too, Aaron Gordon.
So the Nuggets are a team I'm definitely keeping my eye on in the West. Kind of as a bit of a dark horse. And then going out East, I'm also excited to see, this is kind of not boring to talk about, but the Nets. I'm excited to see what Ben Simmons does because I think he'll play that Draymond Green role. Bit of a ball handler, going to be a stud on defense, kind of passing the ball. And Kyrie's going to be coming back for the Nets. New York's lifting their mandate where he doesn't have to be vaccinated to play home games in the Barclays Center anymore. So that's a team to keep an eye on as well. But then the Boston Celtics are a dark horse, 9-1 in their last 10. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are smoking hot right now. And if you look at the rest of the East, I mean, they're one of the top 3 probably best tandems that are left, because you don't know what James Harden's going to be. We know what he's been in the past, but we don't know what he's going to be this year or with this team. Those two are better than anybody on the Cavs. I think the Cavs are a bit like the Hornets. The Hornets held the 4 seed for quite a long time last year and fell back down to the play-in. I don't think the Cavs
Hornets didn't have Jared Allen, though.
No, but then the Bulls, they don't have much experience. Lonzo's hurt, Caruso's hurt, so they've just got to get healthy before they can kind of get back to what they want to do. And I love the Heat. You can hear some dogs going in the background in the Heat games, because that's all they are down there in Dade County. But the Celtics, I think, are hot. They're dark horses. Or I don't think they're hot. They're 9-1. Yeah, the Bucks. Giannis might turn it on here. Chris Middleton's got to play better.
Yeah.
But Drew Holiday is going to put anybody on lock when it comes to the playoffs defensively too. This is the first time in a while where the East is actually better than the West. For the last 5 or 6 years, the West has been way stronger than the East. But the East definitely is this year. And then one more team is the Mavericks are 7-3 in their last 10. Luka's on fire. They just traded KP out of there to Washington. I'm just interested to see what this Dallas team turns into now that it's even more Luka-centric than it was before.
Yeah, no, the team that really has caught me off guard a lot has been on the Western side, the Grizzlies for sure. I mean, I think the highest paid player on the Grizzlies' whole roster makes like $9 million a year. Almost. And
yeah, they got a lot of young guys.
They do have a lot of young guys. And Steven Adams, Coop, you said it. Coop, Steven Adams has been a complete and total dog. I mean, he really has.
They saved him from New Orleans.
Yeah, and the Grizzlies have been fun to watch. Obviously, the Suns. It's cool to see the Suns succeed because they were the laughingstock of the West for a long time. But it'll be now we'll get to see really how well the Suns are with Chris point guard Paul out. I mean, he's out 6 to 8 weeks.
Yet he wanted to get a couple minutes in the All-Star game still. That was interesting.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to watch. Keep a close eye on. And then I'm gonna have to. I haven't talked about them at all really this year, just because they've been so frustrating as a fan. But I would have to say probably the Celtics would be a team that I would watch on the East Coast. I know that I'm a Celtics fan, so there's a little bit of bias there. But Steven said 9-1 really shouldn't have lost to the Pistons to end the All-Star to start the All-Star break. I mean, that was just an embarrassing loss. But they're playing great basketball. Their defensive efficiency is one of the top in the league during those last 10 games before All-Star break. So I'm watching for that, and then
Derek White too, big pickup.
Yeah, and you go back and you go back and you get Daniel Tice again, and so Daniel Tice, he likes it in Boston. Now I'm not saying Daniel Tice is just gonna set the world on fire in Boston, but that's a team that I would definitely try to watch out in the East. They're so close to winning a title, and they're so close to winning the Eastern Conference. At least winning the Eastern Conference, and it's right there. And they're a team that I would definitely try to have to keep my eyes on, but. You can't disregard the fact of how well the Bulls and the Heat have been playing all year. I mean, just consistently. They've been consistently up at the top there for a long time, and it's cool seeing these kind of smaller market, I guess, teams start succeeding like they have. I mean, even the Hornets. Then you got the Grizzlies in Memphis. You got the Bucks still. I mean, those right there are two very small market teams.
I mean, 3 years ago, 3 years removed, the Bulls had a top 5 pick. They just took Patrick Williams last year with the 4th pick. I mean, they were terrible. You got to think their other teams like the Grizzlies were terrible. 5 years removed. The Suns are picking top 5. The Grizzlies are picking top 5, but now they're top 3 in the Western Conference.
I remember when the Bulls drafted Laurie Markin, and everybody's like, "Oh, the Bulls are going to be back. The Bulls are going to be good again."
Yeah.
That didn't work out. But okay, so we're gonna, I guess, I want to touch on this very, very briefly because I really want to get into this debate thing that I have here. But I think the thing we're waiting for the most is James Harden and Ben Simmons to make their debuts. Which one, really, really quickly, which one is set up right now for the most success with their new team?
Clearly, it's Harden. James Harden steps into a situation where he gets to be the number one ball handler. He doesn't have to share the ball with KD and Kyrie every 16 games whenever he can play. So I think Harden clearly has the better success story because he gets to play with. Don't even debate this. The best big in NBA right now, and the front runner for the NBA conversation. If you ask anybody who knows anything about sports, so
trust the process.
No, I don't. Philly has not had a good. They're an early playoff exit every year, but I think with James Harden, I think that him being able to run that basketball team with the best center in the NBA, because the best center you really have to think the best center James Harden really has ever played with is Clint Capella. The next would be Nene Hilario. But so the best center he's ever played with.
Kendrick Perkins in OKC.
That was very last year too, Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah,
very old.
I was gonna say that wasn't like OP Kendrick. Anyways.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
But I just think so. Ben Simmons, what do you do with the guy? Because KD has to have the ball. But Ben Simmons is also a facilitator.
They're probably going to want
Ben Simmons does not score first. I mean, Ben Simmons has been seen under the rim as a 6'11" point guard, passing the ball away, passing up an open layup. I mean, there is no excuse for the guy to be shooting so terribly from the free throw. The guy doesn't take threes. You get nothing from him offensively. The only thing you get from him is maybe 8 assists a game. So. Clearly, the clear-cut, the easier version here would be James Harden, and that is a tandem that I cannot wait to see in the pick and roll. James Harden and Joel Embiid. That is scary.
So I guess this is where the disagreeing cannot begin for the last little bit. So I'm going Ben Simmons does not have nearly as much pressure as James Harden does. One. Don't forget Ben Simmons averages a double-double, almost a triple-double most of the time. And his
points are layups.
Average 15, 16, 16
points are layups.
But he's a facilitator, which is what Brooklyn can use. Because Kyrie, when James Harden got there last year, said, "You're the point guard. I want to run off ball." Well, that's one thing right there.
They played
Ben
16 games together, though.
Yeah, but that was still Kyrie doesn't want to run the offense when he gets back. And KD can definitely play off ball. We've seen he played with Russell Westbrook, who's the most on-ball player we've seen in the NBA in a very long time. Because I think
this is KD's team, though.
But I think a lot of the pressure is going to fall on Kyrie. He's coming back full time. This Nets franchise had to trade James Harden because he didn't want to play there. Yeah. But they chose to sign Kyrie, and it has not worked out at all. So I think Kyrie being able to come back now is going to take some of the pressure off of Ben Simmons. But then this is kind of Harden's last chance going to Philadelphia here to really show that he can still be that same guy he was in Houston a couple years ago. And the thing is, too, James Harden didn't want to play in a flow-centric offense. He wanted the ball, wanted to play more ISO.
I was about to say that. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Likes to hold the ball and run it up the court.
KD.
Joel Embiid, no, his new teammate in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid likes to take the ball up the court and kind of run offense from the point as well. And Joel Embiid is also not scared to call out his teammates. And we know James Harden likes to go and travel, not come back with the team and party a little bit. And Joel Embiid is not scared to say anything if he sees something he doesn't like. So I think chemistry-wise,
Joel Embiid's not going to complain when he's getting lobs in a pick and roll 20 times a game. He's not going to be complaining.
Joel Embiid would get that with anybody.
We haven't seen it with James Harden in like a year and a half.
Well, he missed half the year last year.
He got fat in Houston.
He missed half the year last year. James Harden, dog, we are 2 years removed from James Harden averaging 36 points per game. Like you have to,
exactly.
You cannot forget.
2 years is a long time.
You can't forget. Okay, but we're also dealing with Kyrie, who can't even play half the games for Brooklyn. So what are you going to do? Are you going to put Ben Simmons at point guard and get 8 points per game from him? Because you're in trouble. If you put Ben Simmons on the floor for more than 30 minutes a game, you are holy moly, you are hurting for points. You better be able to defend.
He averages 16 on his career. What do you mean?
Really?
8 points?
What's his 3-point percent? What is his? What can he do? All of his points are layups.
He has no game. They have Seth Curry, Kyrie.
He has no game.
They have KD. He doesn't need to shoot threes.
But he has no game. He's literally a liability on the offensive end of the floor.
Get double covered. That's going to leave somebody open in a corner on the wing.
Nobody double covers him because they think they're going to pass. He's going to pass
it. Yeah, dude, he's a dominant player.
I mean, he passes it every time he has the ball, so I wouldn't want him to shoot it.
You know why James Harden averaged 36 a couple years ago, right? They played ISO. They ISO'd
No, because he had Chris Paul on his team. Chris Paul would gladly take 16 points per game.
They ISO'd him all season.
No. Jason, he had Chris Paul on his team.
Yeah, we saw Chris Paul didn't like him, didn't get along with him. Him and Russ didn't get along.
I'm not sticking up for his demeanor.
Didn't get along with KD or Kyrie.
I'm not sticking up for him as a person.
And Joel Embiid's not afraid to call you out.
I'm not sticking up for him as a person, but he is a baller. He's better than your favorite player, so stop that. Anyways.
What is my favorite player, Steph Curry?
Okay, I can make that argument. But now is not the time for that because Steph Curry is actually on a. Yeah, I was gonna say. But anyways, the situation is still better. I think at the end of the day, say what you want about Joel Embiid calling out his teammates. He wants to win. At the end of the day, he wants to win. He will do what it takes to win basketball games.
That's what a good teammate does.
And he will.
Though. They hold other teammates accountable.
Yes, but he wants to win games. So if James Harden wants the ball, he's going to give James Harden. Trust me, Daryl Morey is a James Harden fan. I can assure you that.
Alpha's alpha, so I don't know if he's just going to toss James Harden the ball.
Well, James Harden's a point guard, so I think. Well, he's a shooting guard, but he'll probably be the point on that team. Realistically, he could play. I mean, anyways, beside the point, I was going to say Tyrese Maxey or someone like that. But
I think the most flashy out of both of them is going to end up being James Harden because that's just the kind of style he plays. Ben Simmons just tries to fill up the stat sheet as much as he can. As far as who I think will end up performing better, look, Ben Simmons has got a ton of weapons offensively. I mean, he's got Kevin Durant. I mean, he's got Kevin Durant. He's got Kyrie. Some games now it looks like every game now. But I mean, he's got so many weapons now that he can use. And not saying James Harden doesn't, but I just feel like James Harden is going to kind of be like in the spotlight, quote unquote, between the two because of their styles of play are so different. So I don't know. It's hard to just say which one's going to perform better. I want to see.
Right now, James Harden is. But by the way, he's almost averaging a triple double right.
But I want to see. I want to see how well.
Where's Ben Simmons played this year?
I want to see though.
So stop it.
I do want to see though how well Joel Embiid and James Harden end up meshing and getting along and that kind of thing. And so I don't know. It's the game when Brooklyn goes to Philly to play in Philly. That. What is that? That's a couple weeks away, I think. Still.
And if you think Brooklyn fans are going to take it easy on Ben Simmons when he does something wrong, boy, you guys are in for something. Ben Simmons is a walking mistake. Like every time he does something, he says something wrong. I mean, the Philadelphia fan base hates him, so they're glad he's gone.
He's a three-time All-Star. You make him sound like he's such a bad player.
I was thinking that same thing, but I wasn't.
He literally has nothing. What does he have to bring to the table?
All-Star.
What does he have to bring aside from his defensive prowess?
He's two-time All-Defense first team.
Aside from his defensive prowess, what does he have?
He's been All-NBA second team before also.
He wouldn't just be an All-Star. He wouldn't just be a three-time All-Star for his defense.
I mean, he's a 6'11" point guard who can rebound more than other point guards because he's 6'11". Of course, he has. He was a number one pick, so of course he has gifts that he was blessed with being 6'11" and a ball handler. That is not to say that is why he's a three-time All-Star. The fact that he can't even shoot a three or can't even try to shoot a three. It's just, I mean, listen, Kristaps Porzingis is 7'3", and he can stroke threes. Like, there's no excuse for him not be able to actually play offense. Like, the guy is a liability, and there is like no defending that. The guy can't shoot free throws. God, you know what? If the Nets get in a late game situation. I hope that he's in the game and you can see just how valuable he is.
I want him in the game.
Yeah, just see how valuable he really is.
Will help.
Hacka Simmons will happen.
Hacka Simmons
will happen. I promise you that.
That's hilarious. Dang, I did not ask that question for this to get so intense.
Yeah, Simmons is garbage. He's dog water.
He must not be that garbage, man. If the Nets traded for him,
it took James Harden, Seth Curry, and three first-round picks.
Yeah,
they needed to get rid of him, and they needed to get rid of Simmons. It was just trading, like, essentially for both sides. It was trading liabilities. They couldn't have Simmons.
What was it Doc Rivers said about Seth Curry? Because isn't Seth Curry married to Doc Rivers' daughter?
Yeah.
What did he say about Seth Curry when he got traded? I can't remember, but he said
if it's for James Harden, then I'm going to trade you.
Yeah, I think that's what he said, something like that. He's like, he might be my son-in-law, but if it's for James Harden.
I don't think it had anything to do with that. It was Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey wanted James Harden back. That 100%. Daryl Morey Actually, matter of fact, the deal never materialized with Houston, but there was a deal in place. You can look it up. There was a deal in place. Brian Windhorst has already reported on this between Philadelphia. Philadelphia was the number one spot, but then Brooklyn did the 3-team trade with Cleveland and Indiana because Karis LeVert went to Indiana and Jarrett Allen went to Cleveland. Okay, so actually he. Realistically, had the trade materialized, he would have already been in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid would have already had him as a teammate. So, we're just a year late. The deal finally materialized because Daryl Morey has wanted him since 2020.
And you even saw in James Harden's presser where he said Philly was one of the top teams on his list.
Because him and Daryl Morey had a great relationship. Look up the interviews, everything. He loved Daryl Morey, and because
Daryl Morey lets him go and party.
Exactly. I'm not sticking up for it, but listen, the guy plays ball for him. The guy will play ball for someone he likes. That's just the theory of how people work.
Ben Simmons, he'll go play basketball for somebody he likes, and he didn't like Philadelphia.
Probably mess it up somehow.
You gotta wonder though. You gotta wonder though, kind of like, and I don't mean to go there, but you gotta wonder though, kind of what goes on in these athletes' heads in a lot of ways though. Like with James Harden not being happy in Houston, not being happy in Brooklyn, you got to wonder what's going on in these athletes' heads. You got to. I don't see why, if you're not happy, why you just choose not to play.
It's clearly not about the money because Houston threw a bag at him and he just said no, thank you. So, it's not about the money. I think it's just. He wants a ring. That's just the bottom line.
He's 100% ring chasing, just like KD.
If he didn't want a ring, he'd still be in Houston. Point blank. If he didn't want to win, he would still be in Houston.
He's 100% ring chasing, just like KD. I'm telling you, Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is. Maybe not this year, but if I had to start a team between Kevin Durant and LeBron, I would probably have to choose Kevin Durant.
At this point in their careers, yeah. KD.
So, so KD's the same way, chasing a ring. That's why he went to the Warriors when he did. But I don't know. That debate that I wanted to have,
because people want to stick up for Ben Simmons. All people want to stick up for Ben Simmons.
It was just kind of about that debate that I had was just kind of about is money ruining professional sports and that kind of thing. But we'll save that for next week because I do want to talk about that.
I'm sure we'll be back next week.
Yeah, that is something that I do want to talk about.
Our producer upstairs for App TV is a Philly sports fan, and I'm sure he's raging right now, saying, why are these people sticking up for Ben Simmons, but we don't have enough time to continue talking about this. I'm sorry for the Nets fans out there. You'll see what Ben Simmons really can do.
No, yeah, we do not have enough time. That is correct. We're going to end the show like we always do, though. We're gonna end the show on some shout-outs. We're gonna keep it classic, I guess, here. We'll go some Right Above It by Lil Wayne. We'll leave out on some Right Above It by Lil Wayne. So we'll go around the table. So, Coop, you go ahead.
Shout-outs. My shout-out would be to the NBA right now. I couldn't think of one. I didn't have one prepared, but the All-Star game this weekend was the funnest I've ever watched. The entire weekend, actually. If you guys watched the skills challenge, if you watched the three-point competition, the dunk contest was terrible. But actually, the Rising Stars games, the format they did with 4 different teams, was incredibly fun, and I wish I could see that every weekend. But yeah, shout out to, didn't think I'd ever be saying this because I don't like the guy, but shout out to Adam Silver for somehow putting that together.
Yeah, I was going to shout out the NBA too, just because they're back in action tonight. Really excited to see that. Kind of feel bad for Josh Hart. He's playing the Warriors, and he's their number 1 guy on their team now. And if you told me Josh Hart's the number 1 guy on my team, you're going downhill from there. Then also in the hockey world, shout out to Jack Eichel, finally back, got his first goal for Las Vegas after being in basically an AHL team in the NHL and the Buffalo Sabres before, and finally on a half-decent team now.
Yeah, mine's gonna, of course, stay sentimental like always. Shout out to, I'm gonna do a bad shout out to the MLB for still not figuring out their crap. Yeah, for still not figuring out their crap.
I'll take Rob Manfred out to dinner too. Yeah. We can both go to that one.
Yeah, I'll go with you to that one.
my God.
But no, bad shout out. But no, my good shout out is obviously going to go to my family for listening to me and supporting me. But I'm also going to have to, I don't even know if he's listening, but I'm going to have to shout out my little brother as well. He got his first interest text message / letter from a community college to go play baseball next year. So he's pretty excited about that. So shout out to you. I'm proud of you for all your hard work and for your dedication to be the best you can possibly be. So yeah, great show tonight, fellas. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the intense debating. So we'll do it next week, and I will save that debate question for next week. So hopefully we can get to it. So that's going to do it for this edition of Sports Wrap. It has been an absolute pleasure, like always. For Stephen Biddix, Cooper Govero, I'm Jason James, signing off, saying good night. Take care. God bless. Roll Nears. We'll see you next week.
World could be dangerous. Everybody circling this vulture.